not going to allow, so I won't allow anybody else to record, but I'm recording, right? Um, yeah, because like, just want to make sure that there's only one person recording and it's me, and then we will put the session recording on our YouTube channel, such that it will be accessed by those who would hear. We have about 156 people in the room, and we've said for those who have just come in, we decided to wait for about 10 minutes. Yeah, we decided to wait for about 10 minutes to wait for everybody. Um, yeah, and then we'll be starting at 10 past 6. Yeah, so I'm so excited. I see the numbers are huge. Thanks, guys, for making time to attend this session. Honestly, however much I'm doing this work without being paid, but when I see you come through, I get so excited because I know that my efforts are not in vain. So, like, I know that whatever we're going to be sharing here is going to be beneficial to someone. So, for me, that's what gives me like hope and confidence that Hope for Refugees is an organization that we need as immigrants in this country. Yeah, I'm so excited. I see we're gonna be making almost like 200 people shortly. Um, yeah, so it's really, really exciting. Please make use of the chat room. Just feel free to say hi, tell us your name. Please don't share your personal information. Don't share your email. Don't share your phone number. Uh, by the virtue of the fact that you're in this call, it means you will join. So we have your contacts, we have your email, so you don't need to share it again. Yep. So we're going to be starting at 10 past 6. We just have about 5 minutes or so to get started. So grab yourself some glass of water or a cup of coffee, get your notebook and your pen, and just like be ready because this is going to be an extremely very interesting session, especially for many of you that are like living in shelters or who are looking for, who are very soon going to be transitioning into housing. You really, really need this information. Yeah. I'm so excited. We're going to hit 200 people. Wow. It's so exciting. We're on 200, 190. Oh, wow. Almost there. Ooh, we've hit 200 people. That's so exciting. I'm so happy. I was worried. I didn't even know it would make 30. Look, we are like 200. That's so cute. Somebody give me a thumbs up in the chat room. It's so powerful. I'm so excited. Wow. Yeah, thanks for those times. Thanks, Shirati. You have a co-op office, please. I see some of you are already asking questions even before we begin. Oh my God. We're gonna answer questions, but later. Yeah, I see the thumbs up. Yeah, we have more than 200 people. Yeah, exciting, right? Somebody says they can't hear me. If you can't hear me, then it's just your gadgets. But I am very sure I am audible enough and my mic is working well. Yeah. So we're going to be starting in 2 minutes. Somebody says share the link to the recording. I can share the link right now. Like the session is just about to begin, but I'll share it later when the session is done, like next week, not this week for sure. Okay. Wow. Means we're gonna hit 300 people. Yeah, give me those thumbs. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Happy to be here. Thank you. You're welcome. You know, Emmanuel Dube.
So let's
I'm gonna keep muting. Okay, so we have 1 minute to go and then I can get started. Looks like there's still more people joining. Yeah, Daniel, Chima, Amadi, you're welcome. Nancy, Beach, you're welcome. Everybody, you're welcome. Wow. So exciting. 233 people. Wow. I'm so excited. I thought we wouldn't even make 30 people, I swear. Yeah, guys, you're welcome. You're welcome. You're welcome. We're going to be starting shortly. Thanks for keeping time. You requested us last time to increase the capacity of our Zoom, and we did that. So, last time we only had 100 people who joined, and guess what? We actually had about 1,500 people who registered for the previous session, but we could only take on 100. But now, look, we are able to take on more than 200. It's really very exciting, right?
sorry.
Yeah, very, very exciting. Okay, so with my voice. So I'm gonna be starting now. Let's see. So um, don't worry, I'm gonna keep muting everybody, so but just make sure also that your mic is on mute. That you don't like produce that background noise. Okay. So those have just come in, we're gonna be starting shortly.
No, when you follow the link, it should not ask you for the meeting.
So Lillian, I've made you host. Just make sure you, at some point, you're gonna help me like keep admitting people in. So I'm going. Oh, looks like it's not gonna work. Okay. All right. So we're gonna begin now. So welcome everybody. I hope you can hear me. I hope you can see me. If you can hear me, if you can see me, just give me a thumbs up. Just want to be sure you can hear me and you can see me. Just go to the chat and give me a thumbs up. Don't unmute yourself to say you can hear me. Just give me a thumbs up. 10 people, give me a thumbs up just to be sure you can hear me and you can see me. Great. Tracy, Christine, Nancy, Aisha. Okay. Now I'm sure you can hear me and you can see me. Great. Great. Thank you. So let's roll, right? I don't know if there's anybody who's excited just like me, because we have more than 250 people on this call. Super, super exciting. Thank you for joining us. My name is Patrick Mwesije King, and I am the founder and the executive director of Hope for Refugees International. Yeah, I live here in Toronto, and I've been living here for about 3 years now. And I'm very excited to, of course, having started this organization and the fact that we're trying to fill in the gap. I also came in just like you as a refugee. I lived in the shelter for 10 months. I struggled to find housing at some point. I struggled to find work at some point, but I made it through, right? And I have like been, like my passion for starting Hope for Refugees is driven by, the challenges that I faced as a newcomer, as a refugee from Africa, being Black, being a newcomer, being a refugee, where everybody wants to exploit you, where everybody wants to take advantage of you, right? Not finding like a central place where you can get all the necessary information, right? And I'm like, you know what? I gotta get something started where we can help all our brothers and sisters from Africa, from Asia, from the Caribbean, who are coming in as refugees and newcomers, and give them hope and opportunity. And that is literally what we do as Hope for Refugees. So this is our second session. Last year in November, we had a session on, we had a very, very interesting session on, just a minute. Let me just get in these people. Yeah. Last year, we had a very interesting session on gathering evidence and preparing for your refugee hearing. And since then, we've gotten a lot and lots and lots and lots and lots of questions and people reaching out to us to support them in many ways with support letters, reviewing their stories and helping them to like understand the kind of evidence they need to prepare. And I'm glad that we've been able to help as much as we can, but the numbers are so many. So I know there has been a request that we repeat that session, and I want to categorically state right now that at the end of this month, we're going to be communicating the date, hopefully next week. We're going to be redoing the session on gathering evidence and preparing for your hearing. Yes, we're going to be doing it again, redoing it, just to make sure we give an opportunity to those who aren't in the room. So just watch out for it. We will share information about it, so just watch out. And we have you join in, right? So now let me get straight into it. So today's session is called Pathways to Housing session. It is about navigating the housing search for refugees and asylum seekers here in Ontario. If you're joining this call and you're not in Ontario, if you're in Quebec or you're in Alberta or you're in Nova Scotia or you're in Yukon, New Brunswick, I'm not very well versed with the housing benefit programs in those other provinces, but at least I really understand the Ontario Housing Benefit Program. So the information I'm going to be sharing is majorly for those who are based in Ontario, any city in Ontario. You don't have to be in Toronto alone. If you're in Barrie, if you're in Mississauga, if you're in Kingston, if you're in Petersburg, if you're in Ottawa, if you're in you know um, Waterloo, all those places, you are in Ontario. And what I'm going to be sharing for sure, 100% is very relevant if you want to start looking for a house. So if you're not in Ontario, you can, I mean, like you can still stay here, get to understand, but you might really want to go and find out more about the housing benefit programs in your province. I know there is. Maybe next time we could do a session for those who are not necessarily in Ontario. Yeah, but we'll do that with time. I can't promise when for sure. Okay, so let's get straight into it, right? So what are the goals of this session? So in this session, we want to empower refugees and asylum seekers who are living here in Ontario by providing comprehensive insights into transitioning from shelter to housing and navigating the housing search through the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit Program. So COHB in full is Canada Ontario Housing Benefit Program, right? If you hear COHB, please know that it's the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit Program. And I'm going to be sharing more about what this program is, what it is, who is it for, how does it work, who can apply for it, how do you apply for it. I'm going to give you all that information today, right? I don't know if there's anybody who's excited just like me. Okay. So we also want to navigate the housing search process. We want to understand Toronto's housing landscape, want to understand the COHB application process, want to learn how COHB can be a crucial support into a secure home as a refugee and asylum seeker. Like, you really don't have to worry about housing if you're a refugee, if you're living in a shelter, because, like, honestly, you qualify for COHB, especially if you've lived there for like 3 months. These days it's even less. You don't have to make 3 months, right? So, like, you can get housing, you can get the government of Canada meet your rent costs, right? And that is why we encourage people go to the shelter, right? Because this program is for people who are homeless. And when you're in the shelter, you're considered homeless, right? So, but that qualifies you to this program. I keep telling like newcomers who have just come in, who just want to go and like live with a friend. And I'm like, if you live with a friend, you will have all the comfort, yes, but you're going to miss out on some extremely important benefits like COHB. Because if you go to live with a friend, it means that you're not homeless. You have an address, you have where to live. But if you say, hey, I'm going to the shelter, in the shelter, it means you don't have anywhere to stay. So you need support with housing. And then the government of Canada doesn't want you to live in the shelter forever. They want to transition you into housing because they want you to start like, you know, blending in the community, because they know when you're in a shelter, you don't have your privacy. You're limited in very many ways in terms of your growth, right? So that's why they want to get as many people out of the shelter into housing. And that is why they've put in place this program. And this program is for you. And so it's important that you learn how it operates, right? And then you learn how to apply for it. And when your time comes, you apply for it, you get out of the shelter, because with COHB, depending on your income circumstances that I'm going to explain, you can either get at least you get up to 70%, like I'll explain. And if you're still on Ontario Works, if you don't have a job, you don't have any income, Ontario Works can give you an extra 30%. So there are many people who get almost like 100% of their rent, from the government of Canada. I used to get 100% of my rent before I got a job, because I was getting 70% from COHB and 30% from OW. But when I got a job, I started working, I started making money. OW kicked me off, right? Which is okay, right? Like, my job is way, 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 way better than the $350, $345 that I was getting per month. So they kicked me off Ontario Works, but I'm still a beneficiary of COHB, right? I still get 70% of my rent from COHB, right? So even when I have a job, of course, it keeps reducing depending on how much money you're making. And you will see, of course, I'm going to be explaining all that. Great. So Let me proceed to my next slide, which is the objectives. So in terms of the objectives, we want to I want to demystify the COHB system. I also want to offer practical guidance on the application process. I want to offer practical guidance on searching for a house. I'll give you very simple, nice tips on how to look for a house. I know how difficult it is to look for a house in this country, right? These things, like some of us who are from Africa, we use these blockers. Some of them you find them on the street. Some of them are con men. Like the landlord doesn't want to know whether you have, like no one is going to ask you for credit score, whether you're employed or not. Like in Africa, it is just easy. You have your money, you get a house, you can get it either in an uptown end, you can get it from a ghetto, like nobody cares. But here, it doesn't. I'm gonna meet you all. Yeah. So like I'll just give you some really important tips on how you're gonna approach, like how you're gonna start searching for a house. Because in most cases, caseworkers don't search houses for you, right? Sometimes you have to step out and look for a house. Sometimes a housing worker will help you look for a house, right? But so when your housing worker says that I help you, sometimes they're gonna put you like in a house with like 4 bedrooms and you're like 4 people sharing together. Because for them, they want to get people out of the shelter. Remember, they have targets. They are given targets. They're like, we want you to get people out of the shelter. You have the money, right? So you need to deplete this money for this quarter before we give you more money. So like they want to get you out. So if they see you're not making any progress, they will look out for a house for you. And in this case, you won't have a choice but just to go for it. But if you know how to search for houses, if you can like search for a house and go and tell them, I've gotten a house, I've spoken to the landlord, they're willing to get me a house, it means that you have taken your time to search for the right kind of like house you want, you know who you're going to stay with. Because if your caseworker, for example, gets you a house and it's a house for 2 people, sometimes you don't even have a choice on who you're going to live with, right? But if you do it for yourself, you have a choice on who you're going to live with. You have a choice on where you're going to live. You have a choice on how many bedrooms you're looking for. So that's why it's very important to know the tips of how to look for a house. And I'm going to be sharing that. Great. So I'll go straight to my third slide. So which is just about Hope for Refugees. And just want to note that Hope for Refugees is we are an Ontario-based refugee-led organization, of course, dedicated to extending compassion, hope, and also want to give opportunity. For me here, the keywords are hope and opportunity. We want to give hope and opportunity to those who have been displaced by either conflict, persecution, and hardships, with commitment to improving access to immigration and newcomer services, improving healthcare, achieving gender equality, defeating poverty, fighting inequality, climate change, and advancing social justice. The dream for Hope for Refugees is big. It's way bigger than just here. We want to expand and go work in even in other countries where there's like crisis, where there's refugees in camps, and see how we can improve things like, for example, gender equality, how we can improve things like water sanitation and hygiene, access to healthcare. So the dream is big, right? But here in Canada, for now, we're kind of like trying to focus more on immigration and newcomer services for refugees. At some point, we want to start having sessions, for example, like on sexual reproductive health and rights, because we know that there's very many refugees who come here. They don't have maybe it takes them like a month or two to get a brown paper. So they don't even have any health insurance. They don't have a brown paper, but they could be sexually active, right? They need to get maybe condoms. They need to get family planning. They need maybe to treat STIs and other things. They have no information whatsoever on where to go, how to start, right? And yet there's like multiple opportunities to get help. So those are things we're going to be covering under our health program for refugees and newcomers. So briefly, this is about Hope for Refugees. You can go on the website and read more. But just to note that we are committed to being a beacon of hope and compassion in the lives of refugees and marginalized populations in Canada, but also globally. And our mission is rooted in the belief that every individual deserves the dignity, opportunity, and the chance to lead a life free from fear and adversity. And our work is inspired by the resilience and the untapped potential of you guys, of me, with the refugees who have faced unimaginable challenges, and we are dedicated to making a positive impact in the lives of everyone. You know, we all go through a lot. And for me, this is what has inspired me to get this work started, right? So we are driven by the unwavering belief of humanity. We want to tell the Canadian government, but being a refugee, being from wherever we're coming from, being gay, being a political refugee, running away because of sexual violence and what from wherever you're running away for whatever reason, you're a human being. So humanity is very important, right? You know, your human rights have to be respected. You know, issues of equity, inclusion, diversity, and the inherent dignity and resilience of refugees from the world's most vulnerable population. So, like, those are things that really drive our principles, our values, our goals, and our work as Hope for Refugees. It's important to know that. I felt like it's really important to know some of those things so that you know like the kind of organization which you spare your time to join the sessions, you know. Yeah. So let me proceed. So now I'm getting into like the meat. What is the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit Program, COHB? So the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit Program provides households with a portable housing benefit to assist with rental costs in the private housing market. Mark my words, private housing market. So private housing in this sense is, I mean, like these wealthy people here who have all these, you know, like skyscrapers and buildings and apartments, which are out for rent. So COHB gives you rental assistance to rent private properties, right? Not government, because if you want government, there's other programs, and I'll tell you what some of those programs are. The benefit is tied to the household and can be used to help parents anywhere in Ontario. So whatever city you're in, whether you're, again, like I said, whether you're in Petersburg, whether you're in Barrie, whether you're in Kingston, whether you're I don't know, Northern Ontario, whether you're here in Toronto, whether you're in Mississauga, whether you're in Peel Region, Barrington, Brampton, uh, you know, I don't know where, Ottawa. As long as you're in Ontario, you qualify for COHB, right? You don't have to live in Toronto alone to qualify for COHB. And you can live in Toronto, apply for COHB in Toronto. Tomorrow you get a job in Ottawa, and you can shift from Toronto and go to Ottawa, and your COHB file will still remain. They will just shift the address, right? But you'll still remain under COHB and you'll be supported by COHB. All you need to do is to communicate to them. And I'm going to give you their numbers. If there is like if you're already on the program and you want to shift from where you're living, like it's not a must that if I get a house maybe in Scarborough, I have to live in Scarborough forever. No, if you don't like the place, you don't like the house, you can terminate your agreement with your landlord and you look for another place. You just call them and they will help you shift your file address from where you're living to the next place. And they will evaluate again, you know, see the rent cost and all that. And they will help you. Very, very helpful people, by the way, I must note. So just also to note that the application process, the COHB application process is not open to the public. There is a certain criteria that you must meet for you to qualify for COHB, and I'll share with you that criteria. There's an eligibility. Not everyone qualifies. And there is approximately 120 referring partners working directly with people experiencing homelessness, working with asylum seekers and indigenous people who will contact eligible applicants. So when they say these 120 referring partners, they actually mean your shelters. If you're in a Homes First shelters, you're in a Costi, you're in a Fred Victor shelters, you're in a Dixon Hall shelters, you're in City of Toronto shelters, you're in wherever. Some of those are partners who can refer you because they have housing workers, right? So in other words, for you to qualify for COHB, you must be referred. You cannot just call in and say, I want to, to get on COHB. No, it doesn't work like that. You have to be referred. So that's why I keep encouraging newcomers. If you could kindly mute yourself so that you don't like, because when there's background noise, it just distracts me, right? So kindly like mute yourself. And then sorry, I don't have like to go in and mute everyone, right? Thank you. So where was I? Yeah. So like I was Jesus. Yeah. So like you really have to be in a shelter, right? When you're in a shelter, it becomes way easier because in most shelters, there are housing workers, right? And also one thing you guys need to understand is that like I've had so many people complain, say, hey, my housing worker is not being helpful. My housing worker doesn't give me time. But like you all know, sometimes you find there's one housing worker in your like most shelters, like when I was staying in the shelter, there was only like free counselors for everyone, right? So you find like this person has like I don't know how many people, so they will not like give you time every day. It's very important that one, of course, you build a relationship with them. Like for me, when I had my housing worker, sometimes I used to communicate to them on emails. Of course, I would go there past in person, but sometimes I would like if I had something that I wanted to find out, I would just drop them an email. Like, hey, I had a very lovely housing worker. I won't say their name for privacy, maybe, but like I would say, hey, this and this and this is happening. I just wanted to give you an update. And they would just reply me immediately. So I didn't have to go there, like book a physical appointment every time. Some of the things would just be solved through email, right? Like email, done. So like you also need to start building those relationships with your housing workers. You don't have to first book an appointment, see them in person, and then they put you on the queue simply because you want to go and tell them you got a brown paper. Like you find something you're inquiring about, is just very simple. It can be solved on email. So like you need to start using those such opportunities, right? So that to qualify for COHB, you have to be recommended, right? Like it's a recommendation by your housing worker because it's your housing worker that prepares your file. You can't just apply for yourself. So also just note that the COHB program is administered by the province of Ontario, and the benefit amount is reviewed every single year. And I'll tell you what that means. So who is eligible for COHB? It's important to know that, right? Sorry. How do I go back? Is that where I was? No. Yes, I think this is where I was. Who is eligible for COHB? So to qualify for the Canada Ontario Housing Benefit, one must reside in Ontario, like I said, and you have to be on the centralized waiting list for social housing, right? So there's this something called rent to get income. So you need, if you're in the shelter, you need to tell immediately you reach the moment you get a shelter, right? And keep telling your friends if somebody gets a shelter, whether they're in for 1 or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, as soon as they have submitted their like their claim and all that, uh, you can uh, you can ask your housing worker to put you on a rent to get income, because if you're not eligible or if you're not on rent to get income, you cannot apply for COHB. So that's why here I'm trying to say that to qualify for COHB, one must reside in Ontario, or you must be on or eligible to be on the centralized waiting list for social housing. So rent to get income is the social housing that I'm talking about. So there's another housing benefit called rent to get income. It's also a government, it's a government housing program for Canada. And the way it works is that um, the government of Canada has houses. Like the city of Toronto actually has houses, right? Very many apartments. Actually, I was told, though I don't have sufficient evidence, that for on every building, like you see here, every apartment building, there's like a few units that are always given to a city, right? So what happens with a rent to get income is that they put you on the waiting list. So you can actually be on that waiting list for 10 years, 5 years, because it's more of like they consider those who went on the list long time ago. So they have to first like get all those people out of the way before you come in. Actually, I know a friend who recently got it, and he told me he's been on that list since 2019, right? So for starters, before you qualify for COHB, your housing worker has to put you on this social housing list, which is called rent to get income. So please, if you're not yet applied for rent to get income, speak to your housing worker or your counselor at your shelter and ask them that I would like you to start on my application for rent to get income. So in keeping in with the provincial program guidelines, priority for COHB is given to the following groups. One, persons experiencing homelessness, including refugees and asylum seekers. Now, I want you to note this. Persons experiencing homelessness, right? So in other words, you must be homeless to qualify for COHB. And for you to be homeless, you need to be living in a shelter or on the streets. So that's extremely very important. And you need to note that if, like, I'll give you this same example, like I'd said earlier. I have a friend who came here. I think they were from Ghana. And like I knew them, they were like my friend. I knew them before. So they were like living at a friend's place for like 2 months. I'd never gone to a shelter. Then later they were asking me, oh, by the way, rather they came to visit me at my house and would say, oh, how did you get this place? Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I got this place to COHB. And it's like, what is COHB? I'm like, actually, he's like, I want to apply for it. I'm like, but you told me you're living at your friend's place, so you do not qualify. He's like, what do you mean? I submitted my claim. I was like, but you need to be homeless. It's like, what do you mean I need to be homeless? You need to have lived in the shelter, right? Because right now, according to the Canadian government, they don't know you're homeless, right? So you must be on a shelter program, right? So that is how you become eligible. So that is why it's very, very important. If you have your friends who come in and they are living with their friends and family, please encourage them. Let them go to the shelter. It is important. Yes, I know some people say, we want to, like, I know for sure that you can get a house, and then the some of your Ontario Works money that you get can be, instead of that money being paid to the shelter, they give it to you, so like you find your own place. Yes, you can do that, but that doesn't mean that you will qualify for COHB. Actually, I have a friend. We were with him in the shelter, and out of influence, he left the shelter. He says, oh man, me, I've gotten a room where I'm going to be living. So he left the shelter. He went out of the shelter. So they started giving him all his Ontario Works benefits. I think the 350 and then the $345, and then I think like the 400, whatever that they usually give the shelter. So this guy started living alone for, for like 2-3 months. Then when all of us started, like majority of us started getting out of a shelter, like getting on COHB, getting really like nice houses and what. So he also went back and tried to, like reach out to his former caseworker, and the caseworker was like, no, but you left the shelter, Sorry. Yeah. So they told him, no, but you had to come back to the shelter, and this guy had to come back to the shelter and do a few other extra months to make his 3 months in the shelter. By then, when we were just come, you had to have lived in the shelter for 3 months to qualify for COHB, right? But now it's different. I think now you don't need to even do 3 months, but at least you need to be in the shelter. So I just wanted to make that really, really clear so that you guys don't, waste your opportunities. You don't let this opportunity go. And remember, COHB is a 9-year program, right? Guys, if you get on this program, just like in 5 years from now, you will have settled down and you can, like you would have settled down, switch jobs here and there, and possibly landed on what you want to do and become like financially stable, and you can pay your own rent, and you don't even need government support, right? Like, please utilize this opportunity. It's here for us. Let's utilize it, right? Yeah. Then I'll go to the next slide. So I know some of you are asking, you're telling us about COHB, how much money do they give you, blah, blah, blah. So I want to mention the following. One, COHB pays the difference between 30% of a household's income and the average market rent in the area. For recipients on social assistance, for example, like OW, Ontario Works, ODSP, and others, COHB will pay the difference between the shelter allowance and the household's rent and utility costs. I will explain this. So this is how it works. Let's say I get a house that is 1,000 $600 per month. All that is $1,600 per month. COHB, if I don't have a job at that moment, COHB is only gonna pay for me 70%. The difference of 30%, which is 70%. So I don't know, maybe if it is 1,600, I don't know, maybe I don't know exactly how much that would be, but just know out of 1,600, out of $1,600, COHB will only give you 70%. However, if you're still an OW client, Ontario Works, or other programs like ODSP, right? Then OW adds that 30% for you because they know you don't have income, so you cannot pay your rent. So you find you're actually getting all your 1,600 free. I don't know if that makes sense. Yes. So COHB does the 70%, then OW does the 30% to make the 100. Then what happens is, when you're finally kicked off OW, right, then you start paying the 30% difference. Yeah, that's how it works. So for example, if your house was if you got an apartment that is $1,000 and you're still on OW, COHB would give you $700 per month, and then OW, or City of Toronto through OW, would give you the 30% difference, which is the $300. But the moment you get a job, you start filing your returns, you start filing income, and then they establish that you're no longer eligible for OW. They will kick you off OW, and you will have to pay that difference. Like, for example, that's what happens to me. I pay the difference. I'm no longer on OW. I pay the difference. So that's how it works, you know? And
Question?
no, I don't want questions right now.
Okay.
You can, I don't even know why you're not on mute. But you can type it in the chat. I'll answer later, right? Don't worry. Just type them in the chat. Or you can even hold them for now. And then when I open up for questions, then we can like go through each of the questions. I'll do my best to answer as much as I can. But let me first finish the presentation. Okay, so just to note that the benefit amount will depend on the recipient's household size and income. So for example, if you have kids, if you're a family, if you're a couple, if you have kids, if you're a family, like the figures keep changing. Maybe the percentage also changes. I don't know. But the amount is calculated using a formula that includes household income, the number of people in the household, and the local housing market rents in the service manager area. So service manager area, in this case, they mean like, for example, Toronto is a service manager area. Then like Durham, which is a different city, is a service manager area. Ottawa is a service manager area, because now the rent market, the housing rent market changes. It's different, you know? Yeah, so that's how it's really calculated. But at least what you need to know is that when you apply for COHB and you're successful, you can get up to 30%, up to 70% of your rent. If you don't have a job and it's still on OW can make a top up for you. When you finally get a job and you're kicked off OW, you'll pay the difference. But still, that will depend again on your household income. For example, one thing I know for sure is when you're kicked off OW, because maybe you might need to ask yourself, how does OW kick me off their benefit program? If you start making money that is more than what they give you, I think more than that 700 that ideally you qualify for, you know, they'll kick you off the program because they know that now you have a job. But you see, for example, you might be having a job that only pays you like $2,100, like $2,100, like $2,100 a month. That is like way, way, way little to be able to live in Toronto. So what OW does, because of like, you know, the disparities in the housing income, the disparities in the income that you're, rather the disparities in the income that you're receiving, the housing market, the inflation, like, I mean, and also say, for example, if you're like a mother, or if you're like a parent, you're a single mother, you're a single father, you have more than one kid, like there's a way they calculate. So you might find even you could get more than 70%. So it's always important to declare all that when your application is being worked on. Very, very important. I just wanted to mention that. Yeah. So to receive the COHB, applicants must agree to be removed from the centralized waiting list. Wait, I'm gonna put everyone on mute.
Sir, if you may allow me.
No, I'm not allowing you for now, please. I will. I see your hands up, but just let me finish the presentation and then we'll ask all the questions. Lillian, please help me keep typing in the group and reminding everyone to kind of like hold their questions. And I will allow, we'll have a question and answer session later. Yeah, because if we start asking now, we are almost 400 people on this call. If we start asking questions now, we won't I won't finish the presentation. Okay, so. Okay, yeah, so the centralized waiting list that I was talking about is the rent to get income. So for you to receive COHB, applicants must agree to be removed from rent to get income, that centralized waiting list. And it's okay. If they remove you from that list, it's very okay. There's no problem with that because either way you have COHB. But you can also choose to say no. I don't want you to remove me from that centralized waiting list because what happens also is that so you're put in a queue, and I think on a monthly basis they keep sending you houses. You select, sometimes you go and check them, but usually it takes long. It takes like years and years. It takes like 5, 10, 8, 7, 9 years. Like you have to really, really be patient. So I don't know whether I know like a friend. I won't, of course, I can't mention names, but he recently got rent to get income, but he had to wait. I think he applied like in 2019, and he had to wait. And this guy has been struggling without like finding a stable place to stay, a stable place to live, like switching from one place to another because he left the shelter, then eventually had to go back. And I think he wasn't like getting a job, and like it was difficult for him until recently. It's like, man, I finally got on this program. And so what happens when they give you that program, they give you a house. Like they give you a house, and either I think you pay like $100 or $200 or even less. I don't have so much detail, but you can always ask your housing worker to like give you more information. Yeah, so household cannot be receiving COHB and rent to get income housing at the same time, or any housing program. COHB is a portable benefit, which means that it will continue to support recipients wherever they move in Ontario. I think I did talk about that. So wherever you go in Ontario, you still qualify for COHB. Like you don't necessarily need to be only in Toronto to qualify for COHB, but anywhere within Ontario, you can qualify for COHB. Yeah, and just also to note that the COHB program ends in 2029. That's when it is going to end. And hopefully, they will, maybe the government of Canada will renew it or introduce another program. I don't know because I don't work for the city, so I can't tell for sure. But yeah, let's just keep hoping that maybe it could be renewed even after that for our brothers and sisters who are going to be coming after 2029. Because the refugee crisis is not about to stop. Actually, there's going to be more and more refugees than there is now. So, yeah. Okay, so let me go to my next slide. So there's something called the COHB calculator. City of Toronto has kind of like put, I honestly find it complex already. Just every time I go to that calculator, it's like an Excel document where you can punch in figures. So there's this City of Toronto COHB calculator may be used to assist households eligible for COHB to estimate their expected benefits. But what I do, I tell like most of our Hope for Refugees clients to just go and talk to their caseworker or their housing worker. Just go and have a conversation. Like if you want to know exactly how much you're going to be receiving, just go and talk to your housing worker. And of course, like I said, it depends on the market value. For example, the market value within your area, within your manager's area, So It depends on your household income. It depends on, you know, how many people are within your households, like so many things, you know. Yeah. But at least what I know for sure is that at least a 70% is guaranteed. Yeah. Then, so applying for COHB, so just note that all COHB applications for refugees and asylum seekers must be initiated by the housing worker at the shelter. Yes, I underline that you cannot apply for COHB yourself. It must be your housing worker to initiate your application. At some point, of course, your caseworker comes in. And I hope you all know the difference between a caseworker and a housing worker, right? A housing worker can be your counselor at the shelter, right? So when I say housing worker, I mean your counselor at the shelter, right? Different shelters might call them different names, but there is somebody at your shelter who you are referred to as your counselor, who you have to always go to, blah, blah, blah. So that's the person that is responsible for starting on your COHB application. And of course, like I said, your caseworker, now the caseworker is the Ontario Works worker that you always talk to through your My Benefits. And yeah, so the caseworker at some point comes in, especially when your file has been worked on. They're the ones who receive it, blah, 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 and, you know, like, I think process it and send it to COHB. Yeah, so it's all like an online process. It takes like 2 weeks or even sometimes less for your checks to come out, either check for the first month rent or the first and last month rent. Now, if you have been contacted as an eligible applicant and have completed the application process, the Ontario Ministry of Finance will contact you directly to inform you if the application has been approved. Yes, they contact you. They send you an email. The moment, so this is how it works. The moment your file has been submitted, you're going to start receiving emails, and you need to work on those emails. You know, they come in, sometimes they ask you for some information, please provide it. The moment those emails come in, work on them as quick as possible. If you want your file to be, you know, to be worked on quickly. Do not, if you don't understand anything, go to your housing worker, ask them, send them an email, right? Yeah, sorry. I wanna take screenshots, but I can't. If somebody can take those screenshots and send them to me, I would really appreciate later, because it's the only thing that I can use to tell that this meeting happened. Lillian, please take some screenshots. If there's anybody who has a really, really good phone, take those screenshots and I'll give you my number and you can share them with me. I need to put them on the report. Because I can't do it when I'm presenting. Okay, sorry about that. I'm also trying to admit people in the call as well and mute. So yeah, so I hope that is really, really clear that your file is initiated by your housing worker at the shelter. Yes, your housing worker, your counselor at the shelter is the one who initiates your file, right? Yes, and the moment your file has been initiated, your caseworker has approved and it has gone to COHB, you're going to receive emails from the Ministry of Finance, the Ontario Ministry of Finance. They will write to you. They'll, you know, like some forms filling, you know, some forms that you have to fill in and a few things you have to sign, blah, blah, blah. And then actually you will, so there's even like an online kind of like account. You have your account.
This is the same thing I came to report for you there.
Okay. Yeah. So once approved, you can contact the province's information center for questions about your benefit. And I've put those numbers. Please just note them down. When you start on your COHB application and, you know, things are working out and you have a question, you can always call them and they'll guide you. If you are approved to receive this benefit, you are considered to be affordably housed. So your application for the rent-to-geared income housing will be closed and you'll be removed from the centralized waiting list. I hope I explained that. Yeah. So now changes to benefit amounts. Now, these are the slides that I'm going to do are extremely very important slides, so pay a lot of attention. Benefits Benefits amounts are reviewed annually by the province and may increase or decrease because of changes at one's income. For example, if your income changes, your household size changes. When they say household size, they don't mean the number of bedrooms or the meters and feet. No, they mean like, if, for example, if you give birth, if you get married, if you get into a common law relationship, right? As long as it's legal, when your household size increases, for example, let's say if your partner or your cousins or sisters or children or parents join you here, let's say, I don't know, maybe your kids have joined you or you've given birth, your household size has increased. So all these things are very important in terms of reviewing your COHB benefits annually. So, or for example, if you move to a different location, so like, for example, let's say if you leave Toronto and go like to live in Barrie, so 100% there, the market rent is totally different. So maybe things could change around. If your income decreases by more than 20%, so for example, if you lose your job or if you are demoted or if you leave your job and go for another job and your income goes down by 20%, you may request a review of your benefit amount. So for example, let's say your rent was $1,000 a month and COHB is giving you $700 because maybe you've been making like $3,000 a month, and then all of a sudden you switch jobs and you get a job which is only paying you like 2,000, like I don't know, maybe like 2,000 from 3,000. It means that your income has gone really low, so you can contact COHB and then they can review. Instead of continuing to give you $700, they could maybe increase and give you $900. So it's always important to report your income. Like, call them if there is a change, in your your income. If you move out of your current city to another Ontario location, your benefit amount will be calculated accordingly to the average local market rent of the area you will be moving to. I hope I explained that. Yeah, so still on annual COHB renewal. So here it is really, really very important to understand that COHB is renewed on an annual basis and you must comply. If you don't comply, they'll get you off the program. And I need to tell you this, the moment they get you off the program, you can never be reinstated on the program. So it's very important. These things that we're going to share are very important. You must do these two things, whether you like it or not. Whether you know how to do them or not, you have to find somebody to help you. So one, all households currently receiving COHB must complete an annual renewal each year to ensure continuation of their COHB benefits. And you always receive an email. They write to you like either like 3 months in advance. You receive an email, they tell you, hey, we're going to be doing a renewal. Just a simple form that you can fill in like within 5 to 10 minutes, right? Not complicated at all. Pretty simple. Just your information, your income, blah, 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 and you put in everything, you submit that renewal form. So there are 2 steps to completing the annual renewal process, namely submission of the renewal form. Very important, extremely very important. You must submit it, otherwise they will get you off a program. And 2, completion of federal income tax returns. Everyone in this country files income returns, everyone, as long as you came in last year. So everyone who came in last year, whether you came in December, in November, in May, in January, you must file your 2023 taxes. It doesn't matter whether you work or you don't work, but remember you're receiving money. You're receiving money from OW, so you have to file, right? And it's even pretty simple. When you're receiving money from OW, you have to file. You have to file an income that you've been receiving, because you've been receiving income regardless of whether you're working or not. Please don't ask me so many questions about taxation because I'm not an expert. But maybe at some point we shall bring in somebody who's an expert in taxation and they will explain these things, right? So if you have any questions about filing taxes, I'll give you numbers and links which you can, call and ask your questions about taxes. But I'm not going to answer questions about taxes today. So, but you have to file your taxes, and there's like very many. Like for example, I was telling people that last year I filed my own taxes, like I did it myself. because there's an app that a friend of mine at work referred to me. I went in and followed all the procedures, and I just did it myself, and I saved a lot of dollars without going to those guys. And guess what? When you file taxes, these guys give you money, right? Like CRA gives you a lot of money. Like you get tax returns. Like me, every time, even I think yesterday, but when I got a check, right? I got a check, you see, it's here. And several, like I don't know, I get checks for, I don't know, whatever, climate change, what, this, what, I don't know, like they keep coming through because I filed my taxes, right? So there's like returns you get back. There's like income returns you get back. So make sure to file your income tax. If you came here anytime before, if you came here anytime before December 30th, you have to file. Whether you are here for 3 days, you must file. And I think the deadline is usually like May or April. Yeah, either May or April, for you to like file your taxes. Yeah. So, but at some point, we're gonna have a session on taxes, so shouldn't worry. I think we're gonna actually I will work with Lillian and the rest, and we can arrange one maybe like in Feb or in March, towards when we like all get into that filing of taxes period, Yeah. So submission of renewal forms every May. Program participants, COHB program participants are sent an annual renewal application form by email or mail, depending on what you chose when you're filling in the COHB application form, to receive your communication either by email or mail. Eligibility and the COHB benefit amount are reassessed annually during this renewal process. So the annual renewal form requires households to review all pre-printed information and to report any changes to their household composition. For example, if you gave birth, if you've like ever since you got on the program, if you're now a parent, or if you've added on, like you added on your family size, maybe you're married, you got married, or and here not customary, but what's the word? There's common law relationships are legal. Like, if you're living with somebody for, I don't know exactly how long, but you can be in a common law relationship. So that could change your family size, right? So all that has to be reported. So report any changes to your household composition, report your address if there's been an address change, rental amount and income if your rent has increased. For example, like my rent increased, it's with effect from March, my rent is going to increase. So when I'm reporting this year, I'm going to tell them my rent has increased by this amount, right? So, if unfortunately maybe my income goes down, then I will also report my income has gone down, right? And I mean, it's not my problem for my income to go down because everyone wants their income to go up, So renewal forms must be submitted to the province by June 30th, and paper renewal forms should be mailed to that address. So if you're receiving your renewal forms through mail, you will have to send them to that address. So please note that recipients may lose eligibility of the COHB program if they fail to submit a renewal application by the deadline. So guys, if you want to get on this program, please treat this as extremely very important, that when you receive an email from COHB, please just consider it as important as an email from IRCC. I know most of you when you see an email from IRCC, you're like, oh my God, what do they want, right? So it's the same thing with COHB, right? Yep. So how about this completion of federal income tax, the taxing thing? All members of a household over 17 must file a federal income return for the most recent year to ensure they continue to receive COHB. So for example, let's say if you are a couple, you're living together and you're under COHB. So all of you have to file, right? Your federal income tax. If you have a child that is above 17, they also have to file the federal income tax returns of the most recent year. So the following resources can be used to locate and schedule an appointment to complete income tax returns. Yeah, so you can just go online and search community I don't know if I can actually copy this. No, maybe I'm going to share it later. I'll share these links. But you can also go to Community Tax Clinic and like there's a lot of information on how you can be assisted with, like filing your taxes. If you go to Housing Help Center, they could also help you. Yeah. Let me first admit this guy is in the call. Okay. So I hope that part is clear. So, also just note that applicants who do not return their annual renewal applications and complete their income tax by the final September 1st deadline will no longer be eligible to receive assistance through COHB program. And guess, look what I told you here, that reinstatement into the program is not permitted as per provincial program guidelines. Reinstatement. So if you've been removed on the program, you can never be brought back to the program. So please note that, it's very important, right? If you have any questions about COHB, you can always call this number. For example, if a renewal form was not received, and renewal forms, and it is very possible for you not to receive your renewal form, especially if you opted to receive your renewal forms through mail and you change address and you don't communicate. Some of you just use shelter address and then you move and you don't communicate, right? That is how your documents will just get lost. If you have a question about your benefits, if you want to provide updated household information, you can always reach out to that number, right? Yeah. Then also, okay, so now I'm done with COHB. I'm going to briefly go into tips for searching for a house, and then after we can go into questions and answer. But allow me to first drink some water in my big glass. No, it's actually not a glass, I think. I don't know what they call this. Yeah. So diversity, how do you, how do you search for a house? I know most of you are here, you're stranded, you're like, oh my God, where do I start from? How do I search for a house? I was there, to be honest, I was there. I used to live around Church Street and King, that's where my shelter was. And I would be walking around downtown in all those buildings. I'm like, wait a minute, where am I even going to live? Like, how am I even going to start? How am I going to find a place? Like I had no idea where to start from. That's how stressing this country can be, right? And if you ever find somebody, I usually keep telling people, like, it's very unfortunate that most of the Africans we find here when we are new, instead of them being supportive to us, they start feeling sweet. Like if they know because you're a newcomer, you live in a shelter, you don't have a job. Instead of being supportive, sharing opportunities, giving you right information, they want to take advantage of you. They want to exploit you. They want to feel sweet and start undermining you and all that. I remember asking some people about, like how to find housing, and they weren't like clear. And so I made a lot of mistakes when I was looking around for housing. I noticed that, oh my God, I was just wasting my time because I didn't know like exactly the steps to use. I remember one day some guy told me, when you're going to look for a house, just put on a white shirt. Go when you're putting on a white shirt. And I'm like, the hell with a white shirt, But I think I was trying to say that, like a bit smart or something. So I'm going to give you like some tips. I mean, these are not written in stone. It's just I'm sharing with you my experience. It could be different from what you already know, but for me, with my experience, because I've also helped some people find housing for sure. And I found a house using those tips. And I've also helped a couple of people find housing using similar tips, right? So you can learn something from them, but they might not work in your situation. So, first and foremost, you have to diversify your web search. It's actually, I keep telling people the easiest way to find a house is using the online listings. Because first and foremost, when you use online, and I'm going to explain what online listings are. When you use online listings, you have a variety of houses to look at. You're able to see where the house is in terms of the location. You're able to see how much the house is. You're able to see if hydro, heating, and water is included on the rent or not. You're able to see other facilities of the houses. For example, if they have a gym, if they have a swimming pool, if they have a sauna, if they have a common room, if they have a storage facility, like all those things. You can only get all those details if you're using online listings, right? Because all that information is provided, as opposed to relying on people, somebody's sharing, oh, there's 2 bedrooms here at this amount, please pay. Sometimes you end up, man, with like weird landlords, and then it's trouble. So for me, these are some of the most popular online tools for finding an apartment in Toronto, but there's also very many others. So for example, this link down here, I got it from Blog Talk. This is like Blog Toronto. It's like a media house, if I'm to use that, like a publishing media house. It has like they list like so many sites that you can use to search for a house, and I'll tell you how those sites work. If need, I'll even show you an example. So like, for example, like for rent, WalkScore, Rent Seekers, Craigslist, KGG, PadMapper, Viewit, these are some of the most common. There's even another one called, what is it called? Rentals.ca. Forgetting the name. Maybe it's on my other slide. Yeah, but these are some of the listings that you can use, and the way they work is that okay, let me first go back. So when you go on there, so like there's usually like a filtering option. So first and foremost, you can filter with the city. So you can select Toronto or Scarborough or North York, right? Or you can even select using your code, your postal code, for especially where you want to stay. For example, you need to know, where do I want to live? How much money do I have? So you can filter using the budget. For example, you can say my budget is $3,000. So it will only show you houses that are within $3,000. You can also say my budget. I want to stay in Scarborough. My budget is maybe $1,500. I'm looking for houses of 1 bedroom or maybe 2 bedroom, because I have a friend of mine that I'm going to be sharing with. We want a house that has only 1 bathroom or 2 bathrooms. So like you filter, you tick the boxes, and so when it gives you a search, it gives you a search for the things you've selected for. And then you can click on any of the, like the options that it's giving you. And there you like scroll down or up, depending on how the site works. And you see like where the house is located. You can even like, use your GPS immediately to see how far it is from where you live, to know whether it's going to be like easy for you to commute, especially like for me, when I was looking for a house, I remember I wanted a house that is not far away from where I work from my workplace, right? Because I didn't want to like commute 2 hours every day in the morning and in the evening going and coming from work. No, I wanted a place that was very close to work, right? But of course, jobs change. That's also another thing. But also another thing I wanted a place that was at least, like not far away from a bus station or the subway, where I knew that I could walk like less than 10 minutes to the subway. And me, where I live, I'm like 5 minutes away from the subway. So it makes it very easy for me. I can like easily get on the subway and I find myself wherever I want to be. So like you have to put some of those things in mind, right? As you look for where to live, because the truth is that majority of us don't know a lot about Toronto. But those are like really, really simple tips. Like you don't need to live in a place where you have to take 2 buses or 3 buses. Like you have to do 3 buses from the subway, right? You don't have a car, you don't have a job, you're still struggling, and you're finding like a place which is so far away, right? Like just doesn't make sense. Anyway, that's what I think. For me, if somebody asked me, I tell them, no, just find a place that is, at least like, okay, wherever stop at the subway, like switch maximum, very maximum 2 buses. But I would never even go to a place where you have to choose 2 buses, maybe 1, or which is a walking distance from like a train station, right? So let me first add these guys in here and mute them. Okay, so let me proceed. So as you navigate your housing search, here are some helpful tips and guidance to ensure a smoother process. So first and foremost, check your COHB eligibility. Consult your housing worker and determine if you qualify for COHB. Do not start searching for houses before your caseworker tells you to begin. confirm if there is a wait list. Because in most cases at the shelters, I've just learned about this. Those days when I was still a newcomer, maybe because there weren't so many newcomers, like the housing workers were telling us, look for a house. We want you to get out of this place. Like they were begging us to actually look for houses. For now, according to stories that I'm hearing from newcomers, it looks like it's different. Like sometimes you have to be on the waiting list. So it's always important to go and talk to your housing worker and confirm if there's a waiting list. And also, if you qualify, if there may be others ahead of you, right? Because I think now the money they give like shelters is not enough, and I think they release it per quarter. So some people have to really wait. So find out from your housing worker. Then two, narrow down your search, right? For example, identify a specific neighborhood where you want to live. Some people tell me, King, me, I know nothing. I don't know where. I don't know where there is where, right? Like, like somebody literally has no information and knowledge about the neighborhood. Yes, I understand. It's very, it's okay not to know. It's very okay, but you can ask. You know, you can also go online and check out like nice neighborhoods. But also, again, like I said, for me, if you ask me, I'll tell you, okay, if you really have no idea on where you want to live, I'll start looking at places that are close to the subway, right? Where you don't have to commute a lot, right? Yeah. So establish your budget, how much COHB provide. Just to note that, yeah, it's good to know your budget, like you're looking for a house in what range, right? Co-op usually gives up to either 1,700 or 1,800. During our time, it was giving up to 1,700. Somebody was telling me recently that it has gone up to 1,800 per person per month with a 30% top up from OW if you're an OW client. Yeah, so just want to make that very clear. Yeah, so know your budget, know how much, ask your caseworker, what is the maximum I can get from COHB, you know, and then know how many people do I want to live with. So if you, for example, you're like two, and each of you has up to 18. If you're two and each of you has up to 1,800, so that is like 3,600, right? So you can look for a house of like 3,200, and for sure, $3,200, $3,300, you can get a very nice, an extremely very nice apartment in Toronto for two people with two rooms. Very, very possible. You could even get one that has two washrooms, right? So ask your housing worker about the budget range. It's very important. And also very important to decide on housing preferences such as shared living arrangements. Do you want to live with somebody? Do you want to live alone? Are you okay with going in a house of three? Are you okay in going in a house of one? Do you want a basement apartment? You know, like all that is very important, you know, before you actually embark on your housing search. Then also use online housing listings to search for available properties that meet your criteria. Some online listings include View It. You know, just if you go online and say View It, you should be able to like go on their website, you know, Padma, yes, rentals.ca. This is what I want to tell you. Rentals.ca is perfect. I always use rentals.ca. Very simple to use. You just go there and go on their filter future and just filter according to budget, you know, city. You can select the number of rooms that you want. Then you search. On your right column, they give you the available houses. You select, you know, and then you can, there's always a number. You can even, actually, most of these listings, the way their websites are built, you can leave a message, right? You can just type in your message and say, hey, my name is, of course, you'll have already put in, the system asks you to put your name, your email, and your phone number. So you can say, I'm looking for this particular house. Is it still available, right? And trust me, they will respond. And the moment they respond, it means that you've gotten a contact. So you can even get their number and call and you're like, hey, my name is so-and-so. I'm actually new here. I don't understand housing a lot, but I saw that you have available houses. I'm looking for a 3 to 1 bedroomed house. And this is my budget. You know, do you have anything available? Or you could have already seen the house and you're like, I saw this house has been listed on maybe a KGG or Craigslist or maybe rent seekers on this address. Is it still available? If they say, yes, it's available, you say, can I book an appointment? Right? If it's not available, then you don't have to go there. But what happens is that some people, I usually meet people who are like, we're going to look for houses. They have no appointment. In this city, it is very difficult to go and view a house when you don't have an appointment, right? Like, it just doesn't work like that. You book an appointment first, right? And, so just to make that clear. Then, of course, contact the landlord. When you find a potential property, contact the landlord or the agent via call or email. Like, for example, for rentals.ca, after you have put in all that information and you've searched and you click on any of the buildings that it is providing, there is always a number. There's where it says contacts, either like contact what, or there's like call or something like that. You click on that, it shows you that and it just shows you the number to call, right? And so you can call that number. Yeah. And then, or you can leave them an email. So clearly express your interest in the listed property and note down the address of the property and inquire about its availability. Inquire, is it still available? So that you don't have to go there when it's not available. Ask about the additional options the landlord might have that align with your housing preference. For example, you might want a house of 2 bedrooms rather of maybe the house you want has a bigger balcony and it is 2,600, and yet there's an option for 2,400, which has a smaller balcony, but it's also a very good house, right? So if your budget is 2,600, then you'd rather go for that one, right? So ask about additional options. Like, always ask them, tell me which options do you have? How many rooms, how much are they, expected time to come in, like move-in date, all those things are very important. Then request an appointment to view the house. Always make sure you view the house. And if they give you an appointment, be punctual. Don't go late. This is a friend of mine I was taking to view a house. I usually don't take people to view a house, I swear. But unless you pay me, I can take you to view a house. So this person, I was just doing it for free for them. And guess what? They were late. They were late like for 40 minutes. I'm like, what the hell? And yet it's me who had booked, gone online, put in my information, everything. And then they came late, 40 minutes. Like, I looked stupid, right? Because I was there on time and I had to wait for 40 minutes for them. And then they told me, oh, sorry, I was sleeping. Last night I was high. I'm like, what the hell is that? Like, so this person will know you're not even serious right from the beginning. So very, very important. So also understanding the landlord requirements. Inquire about the landlord's requirements, which may include, like, do they need an employment verification? Do they need pay stubs? Do they need any identification documents? Do they need any credit score information and all that? Yes, sometimes they say they need, but usually when you're on COHB, all that doesn't matter, because what the landlord wants to know is, are you going to be able to pay my rent? That's like their major interest. And now, look, this is where the game is. Don't fear to tell landlords that you are actually you're eligible for COHB, and COHB is going to be paying your rent. But it is very important to equip yourself with COHB information. If you cannot express yourself, right, print out, ask your housing worker to give you a COHB printout, like a document with like all the COHB information. And when you go, be like, you see, this document, it is for COHB. This is the program that is going to pay my rent. Right? And then for them, they'll read through and understand. So you need to know that not every landlord is familiar with COHB. If you don't have enough information, then what about these landlords? Some of them are not familiar with this information. So you really have to have knowledge about it and be able to explain it, right? And in that case, if it's COHB, then you don't need employment letter, CG, ABCD, nothing, right? Yeah. But some landlords want it. But if after you've explained everything, then it becomes pretty easy. Then also COHB documentation. Inform the landlord that COHB will cover your rent. Request the landlord to sign the rent to promissory note form, which you have to get from your housing worker, right? Go with it. And after you've explained, they tell you this house is available, you'll be like, actually, I'm on this COHB program, and it's the one that is going to be paying my rent. And yeah, but I have to go to my housing worker. For me to confirm to my housing worker that I've gotten this house, you have to help me sign this rent to promissory note, right? And the moment you have the rent to promissory note, you take it to your housing worker. And if there is no like waiting list, they will start processing your file, especially if the rent falls within how much they can give you. Then also, yeah, just to note that yeah, you can also get a COHB letter if you can from your housing worker, or they can print out an information sheet about COHB for you to go with. But at least do some research. Like I'm not a housing expert, guys, but I do research and get this information. So if I get this information, you can also get this information, right? Yeah, so these are just a few steps aimed at guiding you through your housing search process. If you have any questions or need further assistance, please go to your housing worker, ask them all the questions, about COHB. So if I'm not mistaken, this should be like either my last slide. Yeah, so this is the City of Toronto Finding Housing Resource Center. Like if you go there, you can find a lot of information about housing and blah, 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 a lot of information. I thought that I would share it with you. So that's it, right? So thank you. That was my presentation about COHB. I see there is like over 100 chats in the chat room. We're gonna open it up for questions. But I would request that maybe you type your question, right? On the chat, and then I can just, what's the time? So it's 9:28. I'm just gonna use 30 minutes to answer questions, and at 8 we're gonna finish this call because I have another engagement at 8. So if you have a question, just type it in the chat and I'm going to start going through the questions. Because if we're more than 390 people on this call, and if we say we'll get everyone to like unmute, we won't manage. So just type your question. Yeah.
Thank you for the wonderful presentation.
I'll keep everyone on mute. I swear I'll keep everyone on mute. I'm sorry. Yeah, those who are saying thank you, just type it in the group. But before that, before we go into questions, let me just quickly note that there's some of you who have been asking for support letters. Yes, we give support letters for your hearing, right? But you need to have filled in you need to be a client of HRI, Hope for Refugees International, for you to get a support letter from us. So I'm going to share here. I'm going to share I'm going to share here links to the form, the client intake form, because we need to do an intake with you, right? If we are to help you. So I'm going to share the link. So let me just share the link in the chat because I know that it's very important. All right. So for us to give you a support letter for your hearing, you have to be a client of Hope for Refugees. So you need to have done an intake with us by filling in the client intake form. That's one. And then two, you also need to fill in another form, which is to request for a support letter. So this is the link to the client intake form. And I'm also going to share another link for the support letter for your hearing. So this is the link. So you have to request a support letter, and you have to do it 3 weeks to your hearing, because we get so many people who request these support letters. So let me just share that, and then after I'll go into questions, because I know this is very important. And if you've not, you can still share with us before you get your hearing date so that we write it on time, but usually it's better when you've gotten your hearing date. So this is the support letter request form. And let me share support. Yeah. So that's the support letter request form. Yeah. So yeah, so fill in those two forms, the client intake form and the support letter request form. When you fill in the client intake form, it is very important for us because we will know how many people we are supporting. And now when we are also like trying to look for support and funding, it's going to be way easier for us. Yeah, and then also very importantly, we have a conference that is coming up in May, and I want to thank all of you that have really done an amazing job with like sharing with your friends about this conference. So we have very many people who are applying from Ghana, from Nigeria, from Cameroon, from Tanzania, Zambia, India, Uganda, South Sudan, Rwanda. So you can also, let me share this. So this is the link to a conference. It's a global conference on sexual reproductive health and rights. It will happen in May this year. And I really, really need anyone who thinks they can come in to support as a volunteer. If you know you're there, you have some, like skills you can contribute. If you're good with communication, if you think you can be a good usher with a beautiful smile, just reach out to us. I'll also share. So that's the link to the conference, but let me share with you the link to registration for a conference. So we would appreciate you sharing with your people. At least now, we are the ones behind it. So if you have any question about the conference, like, yeah, so there's like our emails are there. You can send us an email. So that's the link I shared is for registering for a conference, right? Yeah. So you can send us an email on info at hope for refugees.org. Info at hopeforrefugees.org. Yeah, you can send us an email or send us a message on any of those numbers. So those links I've shared with you like 4 links. One is for the client intake form. Please, if you think you're going to require a letter from us, whether it is a volunteer letter, whether it is a recommendation letter for anything, right? Whether it is a support letter for your hearing, you must have filled in the client intake form. If you don't fill in the client intake form, you don't get a letter from us. Please. If you need a support letter for your hearing, I've also shared the form. Fill in that form so that we have your information, and it is that information we use to generate your letter. Then I've also shared with you a link to our conference. Please, if you have people who maybe want to who can attend that conference, it's open to everyone, anywhere, whether in Canada and out of Canada. They can definitely register. Those who need support with like visa application and blah, 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 we can refer them to people who are able to support them. Yeah, so now let me go into questions quickly, right? Okay. So I'm going to do my best to answer questions, guys. I know there are many, but yeah. So how long does COHB pay for your rent? So COHB can pay for your rent until 2029. Yeah, COHB, because COHB runs from when it started, I think in 2021 until 2029, 9 years. Is it true that COHB will stop next month? No, COHB is not stopping next month. However, what happens is, so like for some of you who are familiar with government funding, government releases money in quarters. The government, oops, why is it saying this page can't be found? John Paul, I don't know which page you're searching. Lillian, can you confirm those links? See.
Martin.
Anyway, I don't know, but okay. No, those pages are working, but send us the link. Okay, Lillian, follow up with that gentleman and get that working. But anyway, let me go back to the questions, please, because we're running out of time. So, what was it? Yeah, so COHB is not closing next month. No, COHB is closing in 2019. But what happens is that money for different shelters, like money can be depleted because money is released either on a quarterly basis or on a biannual basis. So you have money coming in for a financial year. So when that money is depleted, then you either have to wait for another financial year, you know, or when money is done for a quarter, you have to wait for another quarter. So it's not true that COHB is closing. COHB is not gonna. If COHB is closing, they will write an official statement, and we can only confirm that COHB is closing when there is an official statement. And when it is written, it will be all over the news. So we will definitely see it 100%. But for now, go ahead, talk to your caseworkers, ask if you're eligible and if you can start searching for a house, because sometimes the budgets are like the quarterly budgets are used off, and so they have to wait for another quarter. So by the time money comes for in another quarter, if I've told you to look around for a house and you're already on the queue, then it's way better and easier that way. Okay, I hope I've answered that. Then is the above registration free for, I don't know which registration. If it's for the conference registration is not free, right? Yeah. I hope you are doing well. Please note that at this time, the support for Canada Ontario has been exhausted and probably will not be available until mid next year. When looking for housing, all financial support will need to come from Ontario House. This is to Mukunda and Pierre John Bosco. There's actually, so different shelters, different, yeah, because the agents, like if you remember here on my presentation, I think on number, yeah, if you can see my screen, it says there are approximately 120 referring partners working directly with people experiencing homelessness, asylum seekers, and indigenous people. So these are 120 referring partners. Each of them has a budget, or they are given, for example, I'll just use this as an example. Maybe Homes First can say, get us as many people, maybe 100 or 200 people, whatever. Or this year, COHB can say, for this quarter, we are only going to cater for 1,000 people for this quarter or for this 6 months. So when they cater for, when the money for the 6,000, for the 1,000 people is done for that month, then the rest have to wait until when more money is released, right? But as of now, we have not seen an official statement saying that COHB has been closed down. I don't think that is correct information. So, yeah, so you can be on the waiting list. Of course, your shelter can choose to put you on the waiting list, but it's better to be on the waiting list than being nowhere, right? Yeah. Then I'm requesting you to share the links on WhatsApp group. Okay, Lillian will share the links on WhatsApp group. Did you say 9 years for COHB? Yes. COHB is a 9-year program, but remember it started in 2021, right? So 4 years down the road, okay? Patrick, they told us that our shelter, that COHB is ending in March. Again, as I say, there is not yet official communication. Yeah. So if there's official communication, clearly it will be communicated. But what I know is that COHB is an Ontario housing benefit program, so there will be communication from the Ontario government. Yeah, and that information will be going all over the place if it's there. Well, I would say no, because we've not yet seen official communication. If you have official communication, share the link with us. But when I go on the City of Toronto website and on the Ontario Housing website, even because I've been doing all my research on this stuff, I did not see any link that says the program has closed down. But if you have, you can share it. When is COHB coming back in Mississauga? I don't know when is COHB coming back in Mississauga. But usually it's quarters, basically. Like, for example, one quarter is depleted and then you have to wait for another quarter. Like, if you remember in around June, July, when there was like a huge shelter crisis and there was like very many people at Dominion, the government had not yet released money. But when they released money, they started getting some people off shelters and creating spaces for other people. So that is how all governments work. Let me see. Oh my God, so many questions. A link to become a member with you. Yes, that link has been shared, Lillian. You can share again that link for client intakes. Thanks for the informative presentation. Please, can you just flash the lists of rentals on how to get a house? Okay, I'll do that. So this is the, yeah. Did you mean that? Yes. That's the slide I'm sharing right now. Those are some of the online listings that you can use to look around for a house. Okay. Thanks for the wonderful presentation. I'm on the waiting list of central intake for shelter. Can I still apply for COHB, Canada Ontario Housing Benefit? No. First wait and get a shelter. That's when you will apply. But you're still calling central. Yeah, keep calling central intake. But also, okay, if you know you're the one who sent out this message of I am on the waiting list for central intake and I'm looking for a shelter, please send an email to that email that I sent, and we can refer you to a shelter and you get it. Even tomorrow you will move in. Yeah, because Hope for Refugees, now we have some working relationships with shelters where we can just make a quick referral and you're taken on immediately. At our shelter, we are told by a housing worker that COHB was stopped last year. COHB was not stopped last year because even this year, I know several people that have just gotten COHB. Yeah, just in this January. But I think your shelter, it's usually because there's a waiting list. And some of the caseworkers don't want to honestly be honest with you, there's a waiting list. So that's the thing. Is it okay to send those links to our emails since they were, okay, yes, I will send all the links. Every link we've shared and all the links you've seen in this presentation will be shared in the email that is going out next week. What can I do if I did not get help from housing worker? No, you need to establish a relationship with your housing worker because your housing worker is the one who's going to help you. Yeah, if you're not connecting well with the housing worker, you can ask your shelter management to change for you, but I don't know, but you have to establish a relationship because it's your housing worker to help you. How long does it take to finalize documentation for housing to a client? 2 weeks. It takes about 2 weeks when your file has been submitted. Thank you for your time. You have really saved many lives with this information. Thank you. Thank you, Olulantobi Adekani. Thank you so much. Yeah, I mean, I'm happy to share information. And my information is researched information, by the way. So if you're going to come and tell us anything, you really have to have evidence, right? Who can start? Yeah, so great session. Who's got any job referrals in Oshawa? Just recorded there, relocated there. I don't know any job opportunities in Oshawa, but you know what you can do? Okay, so guys, let me give you a tip, and we will also maybe at some point have a session on like employment and blah blah blah. There's usually like these what are they called? Career fairs. Yeah, like for example, you can search for like a career fair in Oshawa and like go there because usually on these career fairs there are companies that are recruiting there, and then yeah. There's also someone we're trying to like have a conversation with who takes on like people who are looking for shelter jobs when that window, sorry, for not shelter, I think PSW, when that window opens, we'll communicate on email. Hi, can someone who never went straight to the shelter after entering Canada be given COHB too? And I don't think so. I really, because you must be homeless. At least from what we shared, they say you must be homeless. So that means you're not homeless. Do you have a direct number for COHB? Yes, I shared that number here, right? Wait, which slide is it? Is it that slide? One of the slides. Yeah, that's the COHB number. You can call it during working hours. What is the difference between B plus W subsidized housing and transitional housing? Are you talking about the rent to get income? B plus W. I don't know, Dorcas. I don't know. B, just write the whole word in full, not B plus W. Can anyone join HR? Do you mean Hope for Refugees? Yeah, you can just share with us your filling the client intake form. You can also apply for volunteering opportunities. We have if you go on our website, www.hopeforrefugees.org. If you go under, I think which tab is it? I'm tired. Let me see. If you go, let me share the link. Actually, get involved. You can. We are planning to hold our next month. We'll be holding our volunteer orientation. So for all those who have applied for different voluntary roles, we're going to have 2 volunteer orientations. One is going to be a virtual orientation, and another one is going to be an in-person orientation. So just take notes. COHB number, I'm just sharing it on the screen. Others also contact Papa from, okay. What if I'm from what? I'm from another province like Quebec and would like to relocate to Ontario. Can I apply for COHB? I don't know, maybe if you relocate. Okay, what I know is that COHB is for Ontario, but you can call that number and ask them. If you're from another province and you want to relocate here, please call and ask. I honestly can't, I'm not sure. And I don't want to give you wrong information. I just want to make sure that the information I'm sharing is correct information.
We still need COHB number.
Sharing.
Where's the number? Where's the number for COHB?
I'm going to mute all of you. How do I even do that? Please check your screen for the COHB number. It's being shared, right? Yeah. Okay. It's on the screen, right? That's the number. So call them, right? They can help answer all your questions. We need COHB number. It's thank you for this question.
We can't see. You can't see the number.
On the screen here is the number. I'm highlighting it. Okay. +1 8 8 8 5 4 4 5 1 0 1. That's the number, right? Okay. How will I know my housing worker? At your shelter. If you're in a shelter, ask them, who is my housing worker? If you don't have one, they will definitely assign you one, right? Yeah, so in your shelter, there's always a housing worker. Some shelters, they call them counselors. When registering as a client, which one is the claimant ID? The claimant ID is the one that you can even put your UCI number. It's okay. No problem. It's not good. Kindly type the COHB number here, guys. Okay, let me type the COHB number for you. Okay, now anybody who's asking for the COHB number, please, I'm going to type it in the chat. Okay. So no more other question about COHB number, right? There you go. I've never called it, but I think when you call it, you have to be patient and follow the prompts, right? And follow the guidance they are providing. It's what is on the website. Is everybody assigned a personal housing worker? Everyone gets a housing worker for sure at your shelter. Okay, there are people who asked questions like long time. Let me go up into those old questions. Good evening, everyone. Let me see. Hi, my name. Okay, this was introductions. Okay. Yes, you are quite audible. Greetings, everyone. Okay, let me see. Okay. Great. Well, let me see. I'm trying to scroll through. Can they help people that are not staying at the shelter, but they are refugees? I answered that. You have to be homeless to qualify for COHB. Can I qualify if I don't stay in the shelter because I rented the room? You have to be homeless again, because that's the eligibility. But you can, you can still call that number and ask, but your file has to be filed by a housing worker. But if you don't have a bond paper and an acknowledgement, but have stayed in the shelter for a month or so. Yeah, I know somebody who got COHB and they hadn't gotten a brown paper, but they had an acknowledgement. Thinking you need to have an acknowledgement because remember here, they're saying asylum seekers. Guys, mark these words, right? Remember the eligibility, where is that? If you can see my screen, yeah, you see here, the approximate, okay, yeah, they're working directly with people experiencing homelessness, asylum seekers. So what proves that you're an asylum seeker or a refugee if you don't have your acknowledgement? That means you've not yet filed. So if you file, you have to wait to get your, when you file your asylum, there's, what is it called? There's something they give, I've forgotten, like your acknowledgement of your, I don't know, maybe your case that has been filed. It's a long time ago since I filed, guys, so I've forgotten. Yeah. Please, case workers different from housing workers. Yes, a case worker is for Ontario Works. A housing worker is at your shelter. A housing worker can also be called a counselor. How do I get a housing worker? Just ask the people at your shelter. Tell them I don't have a housing worker. I need one. The staff at your shelter, like those shift leaders and managers, they will help you. Is the case worker and housing worker the same? No, casework and housing work are not the same. I have my brown paper and live in the shelter. How do I get COHB? I just shared in this presentation how you get COHB. Go and talk to your housing worker about it. They'll walk you through that process. When do I get a housing worker? You get a housing worker when you go to the shelter. They assign you one. If they take long, just ask them and tell them, I would like to be assigned a housing worker. My name is this one. I have been trying to get a house around Etobicoke and North York, but it's so difficult. I got one studio basement apartment around the thing. The landlord said he doesn't want to have anything to do with COHB, feeling so bad. If the landlord doesn't want, just look for another landlord who accepts COHB. Simple. What if a caseworker pays for my rent and out of the shelter? Am I still eligible? You're not homeless. So maybe you're not eligible, right? According to this. Yeah, if you see what I'm sharing on the screen, you must be falling under that. This worker is different from a housing worker, yes. Can you apply for COHB in Toronto if you are living in Mississauga? You can apply from where you're living. So if you're in a shelter in Mississauga, yes, you will apply from your shelter in Mississauga. Because if you come to Toronto, who's gonna work on your application unless you get a shelter in Toronto? And by the way, it's also allowed to change shelters, right? It's allowed. You can change a shelter. I changed one because I didn't like the one I was at, and I just changed. So you can also change if you want. But of course, finding a shelter is difficult. You need to know that. I have a brown paper and I rented the room because I am not in a shelter now. Can I qualify? Well, I think you have to be homeless. So I don't know if you're homeless right now, but what I know is that if you're living in a shelter, you're homeless, right? So you qualify. Many cities are saying COHB is cancelled. Is it true? I do not have sufficient evidence as of now. I've been doing a lot of research about COHB to give this presentation. and I didn't see anywhere where it said it was cancelled. There's no official communication I've seen. 70% of, okay, thank you. Derek was trying to give us the figure. Please answer this question. Are housing workers the same as case workers? Okay, let me say this again. Housing worker is at your shelter. Case worker is your OW worker, the one you talk to through my benefits, right? I hope that is clear. What of someone in the shelter and was not, what of someone in the shelter and was now moved to a hotel? Hotels are shelters. Those are hotel programs. They are shelters. If you're living in a hotel and you are moved there, say from Dominion or from wherever, what you're under Red Cross, you're in a shelter. Regardless of a 5-star or 3-star experience, you're homeless. So you qualify for COHB. And I'm living in the emergency shelter hotel, and they told us to look for houses. Yes, please look for one. They told us that COHB is done. I've already answered that. Are there house managers in Niagara? Are there house managers in Niagara? Yes. Niagara is in Ontario, so you qualify. Go to your speak to your housing worker. How do we access housing workers? You access an housing worker through at your shelter. Please go to your shelter and ask to have a housing worker. Can you apply for COHB if you are on special priority list of housing? What are the pros and cons? I think you're trying to say rent to get income. Yes, you can apply for COHB when you're on rent to get income, but when you get COHB, they will strike you off rent to get income. I'm living in Halton region in an emergency shelter. Am I eligible for COHB? Yes, Halton is in Ontario. Please find out because Patrick has told you it's for. Oh, thank you very much, Beatrice Manang, for helping me answer. Oh, wow. Thanks, Musa. I see you are taking some screenshots. I've been told COHB will stop with March. I don't know. I've not seen an official communication. If it comes out, we will follow that. Yeah. Halton, part of Ontario, yes. Okay, it's 8 guys. So many questions. But please, okay. So now let me say this. What I can do is just to share correct information that I know. But there's way much more that you can learn about COHB that, I mean, like we cannot exhaust everything and all the questions within the 2 hours. So that is how much I've been able to do for now. And please allow me to stop here. I mean, I couldn't answer. There's like more than 100 questions, but most of them are the same. But at least much of the information was shared in the presentation. So I really, really want to appreciate your time. Thanks for, like
Please,
part.
please, hi. Talk about Windsor kindly. Please, 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 please.
Talk about
Let
what?
me hear. Windsor.
What's wrong with Windsor?
There is a question there about Windsor.
There are very many questions, I swear. What's the question?
So, is it possible, because the services we can't access here in Windsor, can we access them if we relocate to London?
Windsor is in
Even
Ontario.
though,
Windsor is in Ontario,
yes.
so you can qualify for COHB. Whether
Okay,
you're
thank you.
and then all those are cities in Ontario. Okay, so please, let's not have any more questions, I beg. And those who want to still join the meeting, please, we're not allowing in anyone in the meeting anymore. We have finished. But thank you very much. On behalf of my team, Hope for Refugees, I know Lillian is there, Papa is there, and others. Thank you very much for being part of this call. On record, we had more than 400 people. I'm so excited. So we will be having several other sessions. We're going to repeat the session on gathering evidence and applying for and the hearing, just to prepare you more. So it will be coming through anytime. And also those who apply to be our volunteers, we will be also reaching out to you. We're going to organize a volunteer orientation session. If you want to support later, you must be a client of Hope for Refugees. To be a client, you must fill in the client intake form. If you want to support later, you also have to fill in the support letter request form. 3 weeks before your hearing. Thank you. Thank you all. God bless you and have a good night. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you,
Bless
Patrick.
you.
God bless
Thank
you.
you.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so much.
Patrick. Bye bye.
Thank you so much.
At least you have learned something.
Thank you
Yes,
guys for
thank you.
being online.
Patrick.
Coming.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Bye bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you.
Enjoy. Enjoy your Friday.
And your weekend as well.
All right. You too.
You have been left. You have been left with a field to play on. You have been given a chance to speak. Keep your heads out. Bye bye.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.